Okay, so let's start this session. Welcome, Shobna Priya and others who are going to watch the video to this live session number 9 for the course Effective Computing, where we are going to cover um, week nine's content, which is emotional empathy in agents or machines or robots. So, like every other session, we are going to solve some previous year assignment questions and then also some extra questions. And I hope that you will also participate and pay attention to it. So, I think we should start now. So, question number one is, what is empathy primarily about? So, is it about understanding and experiencing what others are going through, providing sympathy to others in their times of need, avoiding interaction with those who lack empathy, building relationships based on mutual understanding and support? So, empathy is a general word. You must have heard this many times. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the emotions or experiences of others. So we want to understand and share the feelings of others. It's a very fundamental concept in human interaction, even in human computer interaction, because the whole thing is based on making the systems or the machines more emotionally intelligent, right? So also in the case of human interaction, it helps in building deeper social connections and fostering relationships. So it involves stepping into someone else's shoes to feel or imagine their emotional state. Let's say your friend is sad, so you want to know why the person is sad, and you will also feel some kind of sad emotion. Okay, so if we imagine what the person might be going through, that is empathetic feeling. Okay, so it leads to a more authentic and compassionate response. So, and effective computing, it aims to enable the machines, as I already mentioned, it aims to enable machines to understand and respond to human emotions. So empathy is an essential concept because it helps us to engage in meaningful interaction with users. The systems, they're not just robotic, so-called robotic without any emotions, but if they are empathetic, if they are able to understand the situation or the condition of the person, then they would be able to interact in a more human way. Okay, so the correct answer is understanding and experiencing what others are going through. Now, second question is, providing emotionally intelligent components such as empathetic responses from virtual agents can lead to better, more positive, and appropriate interactions with humans. True or false? So for those who are watching the video, you can pause and try to answer, and then move on to the discussion part. So, uh, what exactly what exactly is the role of empathy in effective computing? So it helps us in emotional understanding. So usually when we are interacting with machines, it's more mechanical and it's more like rule based. However, we want that the if like let's say I'm talking to Alexa and I feel low though, so Alexa might be able to respond to me in such a way that she wants to cheer me up. So there might be many ways to sense what kind of emotion I'm feeling, but the ultimate goal is that we uh, the machine should be able to understand what the person is feeling. So machines recognize and respond, of course, understand and then respond accordingly. So recognize and respond to users emotions, providing appropriate reactions. Let's say virtual assistants or Siri, or Alexa. So let's say I'm very frustrated and it is able to detect that I'm very frustrated. So it can offer me support, like, okay, I sense that you had a hectic day, or like it can provide any kind of customized response. Now, enhancing user experience, of course, when you're talking to a very boring mechanical machine, let's say you're on a phone call, and then there is something called IVR. It is very predefined, kind of like for English press 1, for Hindi press 2. It's very mechanical. It is not intelligent. It's very monotonous. So you want some kind of understanding, some kind of enhanced user experience. If the machine is responding in an emotional way or empathetic way, then my user experience will be better. So it is more personalized. Emotionally aware interactions improves satisfaction. Now, let's say a learning gap is there, and it adjusts its approach when it senses that the student is getting frustrated, like the student is unable to solve the problem, and let's say you reduce the difficulty level for the problem. Next is building trust and rapport. So let's say customer service chatbots, if they are responding nicely, if they are responding very, even if the customer is frustrated, you are responding in certain way that you're assuring the customer. So it becomes a good experience for the customer. And so these kind of things help to build trust towards a brand. Then humanizing HCI. So we cannot like mimic exactly, but however we want to be, as close as possible in case of HCI. So the interactions feel more natural and human like. Okay, let's say AI healthcare applications, companionship for elderly patients. So if there is a robot which is meant to take care of an elderly person, so if it interacts in certain way which is more emotional and empathetic, let's say the person is feeling pain, now the robot, it responds in a such a way that it kind of makes the other person happy. So it is a very important thing, and it helps to present the conversation, to hold the conversation is a more human like way. So okay, there are certain more aspects to it. Next is personalization. So depending on how I am feeling and you are feeling, it might change its response. So it should adjust workout difficulty, let's say a fitness app, so adjust workout difficulty when a user is feeling down. Okay, then comes emotional regulation. Virtual assistants provide concise answers when a user's shows sign of irritation, like you can tailor make your responses based on how the person is feeling. Then comes the context aware responses. So let's say you sense the emotional tone of conversation and then adjust the responses accordingly. So providing emotionally intelligent components, so this is true. Okay, now a very interesting concept. What is anthropomorphic design primarily based on? First option is humans prefer machines with human like properties. The belief that machines should mimic human behavior entirely. Both A and B, none. So what exactly is anthropomorphic design? Very interesting. So anthropomorphic, it mainly deals with, it refers to giving machines or systems human like appearance or attributes or behaviors. Let's say you're designing a robot, so very likely you will put like two eyes and one nose, one mouth on the robot, so that it looks certain, up to certain limit it is kind of a human like figure, right? Does not mean that machines need to entirely mimic humans, but rather integrate certain human like qualities, okay, to make interactions more pleasant and relatable to the users. So the primary reason why we want this, is that humans tend to respond more positively to systems that exhibit familiar or human like traits, especially when it comes to emotions and behavior. I am more likely to talk to a human like robot more pleasantly, or it will be more natural conversation, rather than I'm just talking to a box. No matter how good the box is, the responses, everything, it is secondary. But to talk to a box versus to talk to a robot, which certain has some human like characteristics, always I will prefer talking to the robot, because it is more natural, we are more familiar with that. So when systems are designed to exhibit these qualities, let's say what can be these qualities? These can be empathy, conversational language like natural language, facial expressions. If a robot is able to produce facial expressions, tone, people tend to interact with more them with more comfort. Now it can help to create a sense of trust, engagement, and ease, as users feel that the machine is more relatable to them. Okay, like I mentioned, like you instead of talking to a box, it's always better to talk to someone like you can see or you can visualize, which is more human like. So let's say Alexa or Siri, although they don't have any facial structure, they're like a box only, but then they are more designed to have a conversational language. That is also a human like characteristic, right? So conversation, like you can talk to them in English or in Hindi, okay? They can respond in that proper full sentence. It's not just one word answers. So it, in one way, they can mimic the human conversation, like you're talking to someone over phone, like that. So these systems can greet you, joke with you, respond to your requests in a more personalized way than a simple robotic voice, if which is very boring, which is very unrelatable. So these systems like Alexa and Siri, they are more user friendly. So, what is anthropomorphic design? Primarily based on the motivation is that humans prefer human like properties, okay, to interact with. Now, this section, second option is not necessary, okay? It is not necessary because somehow we cannot mimic a human being entirely. Till now, we have achieved very human like conversations, but still we are like on the way. Okay, so and this is not the basis of the this anthropomorphic design. So first option is the correct one. Okay, again, very interesting concept. What is the uncanny valley effect primarily associated with? So I'll read the options. Increased acceptance of robots in society, a feeling of discomfort towards almost human like robots, both A and B or none. So this is a very interesting topic, which you can visualize as well. So when we talk about the uncanny valley effect, it refers to the eerie or the uncomfortable feeling people experience when encountering robots or virtual avatars or other artificial entities that look or behave almost like humans but not quite right. So let me read that again. So when we are talking about, like, let's say you design a robot and it looks like this, although it is not a proper human like structure, but it has two hands, it has like tires, if not the legs, it has two eyes, one neck, body. So it has a human like structure, it's very cute robot, right? But um, so if you see, if we plot the graph between the familiarity and similarity, so similarity means it looks exactly like the humans, okay, and familiarity means how well we perceive, how well we take the, like, how comfortable or how familiar we find that thing, okay. Now when we start, let's say I design a robot which is in the form of a box, okay, it has no eyes, no ears, or no nothing, just a box. It is very low on similarity, right, on the this side. However, the familiarity is also low. uh, as we try to move up, I mean, the we tend to design the systems more human like. So this is human like, okay. So you will see that somewhere here, let's say you have certain volley, This is more like human than the this box, right? But still far away from human, right? Here you can say the familiarity is increasing. You feel very, this is very cute, this you feel very comfortable to talk to some robot which is very human like looking, like a human. Now comes a point after which if you increase the similarity, then let's say look at this doll or this robot. This has facial characteristics exactly like a human being. However, this still, if you look closely, this looks very creepy. Okay, this looks very creepy because somehow the movements, the lip movements, the eye movements, they somehow look very unnatural. And since you are expecting it to behave like a normal human because it looks exactly like a human, then it is not behaving, then it is more of a contradictory thing, and it makes me, or it makes you the user very uncomfortable. So let's just read this out. uh, why does this happen? Because it is, in this case I have no expectations. This is a funny cute robot. Whatever it does, I have no expectations like what a human can do. Would it be able to laugh, or would it be able to smile properly? Because it is not human. However, in this case I expect that it should do exactly like a human being, which is not the case. Okay, so this near human resemblance triggers a negative emotional response, and it causes fear or even like discomfort, distrust, like that. So you can see then after certain similarity level, if we still move on, there comes one segment which which is not perfect. Okay, if we achieve like proper realistic this expressions, this facial structure, everything, then we will be able to talk to it very comfortably. However, in this case this is like midway, halfway there, it's not perfect. So it is more of a creepier side. Okay, so let's again read this out. When robots or virtual characters appear to be very close, when they appear to be very close to humans in terms of appearance or behavior, but miss the mark in subtle ways, let's say the facial expressions or movements, or it is moving very weirdly, moving the neck. Let's say there is a robot, looks like a human being, and it is able to rotate its neck full 360, which is very creepy, right? um, but if a normal robot like Wally does this, it does not look creepy. It is like, okay, it can do it. So this is the uncanny valley effect, and people often find this unsettling that a human looking like a robot which looks like human is able to rotate its neck completely. So the closer something comes to looking like a human without being perfect, it triggers that uncomfortable feeling. So the reaction is largely due to slight imperfection. In this case, you can see that the this area of this is very uncomfortable to look at, and this is not perfect. Nobody smiles like that. Okay, so, unnatural skin texture, awkward movements, mechanical facial expressions that highlight the entity's non human nature, even though it looks like a human. So, very good example is in animated movies we see that they try to mimic the human like characteristics. In Pixar's, let's say Toy Story, if we look at the characters, look at the expression, it is very nicely done. Like it actually looks like she's very interested in something she's looking, and they're very surprised. He's also very surprised, and the expressions are quite perfect. Like they are actually showing how a human would respond in case of human is surprised. However, there is another movie which is this the Polar Express. Okay, the animation, they try to make it hyper realistic, that it looks very realistic, but it can trigger discomfort. If you look at this, See, this looks exactly like a human. This girl looks like a human, but somehow there's something off about it. Okay, there's something off about their faces. If not everybody's, but something is off. Okay, so it is slightly uncomfortable to look at. So this is the uncanny valley. Why do we call it valley? Because there is certain dip in the graph, which we refer to as the uncanny valley, which is present in the this familiarity score. Okay, so also let's say you talk about this robot called Sophia, right? We know that this is the humanoid kind of robot. Similar is the case, like this is very very close to humans, but let's say Sophia does something which is slightly unrealistic. It is going to be very uncomfortable to look at. So yeah, so this is a feeling of discomfort towards almost human like robots. Okay, so what are the three major sub processes involved in empathy? So, empathy has basically three major sub processes. First one is emotional simulation. Emotional simulation means to mimic something. Now it refers to the process by which an individual internally simulates or mirrors. Simulate means to mimic, right? So we look at someone who is sad and you also like become sad. Why does this happen? When we observe someone's emotional state, let's say sadness or happiness, our brain can activate similar neural pathways. So as if we are experiencing the same emotion. That's why it is called mirror, something called mirror neurons, and it helps us to understand and mimic the feelings of others. Now importance of this particular sub process is emotional simulation helps us to like feel what others are feeling. That is the core concept of empathy, right? So it enables emotional connection and understanding. It is a crucial foundation of empathy because it allows to resonate with others experiences, which is again the core concept of empathy. And then let's say for example, if you're watching a movie and then a character is experiencing a tragic loss, so you will also relate to the person and you will also feel a sense of sadness or grief, even though you haven't experienced the same thing that character is going through, but still you are able to feel that. So the second key sub process is perspective taking. You want to know the emotional simulation part. It helps to understand what the other person is feeling, but this part tells you why the other person might be feeling sad in a certain situation. So perspective is to imagine, the ability to imagine oneself in another person's positions and understand their thoughts, feelings and experiences. So it is more involved with the cognitive aspect. So in this case we do not have to think much, but in this case we kind of think about it. We kind of think about why the person is why the person is feeling that way in a certain situation. Um, so importance is that it helps us to understand what like others more accurately and provides context. Like let's say during a festival celebration a person is crying, the person starts crying, you also feel sad by looking at the person. Now but you want to understand why the person is feeling sad while everybody else is happy. So the reason might be that they might be missing someone from their family because they are far away or so. So this thing that you put a thought behind the like what is going on in other person's mind, this is the perspective taking. So it helps you to understand, oh, he might be feeling bad because his family is far away right now and during a festival. So it also prevents us to making assumptions based solely on our own emotional experiences. Okay, we haven't been in such a situation, so we cannot judge the other person for that. Let's say, suppose a colleague at work looks upset after receiving feedback. If you engage in perspective taking, you might realize that maybe they are sensitive to criticism, or maybe they are having a tough day already before the feedback. So understanding can help you to guide the like empathetic process in more of a supportive way. The third is emotion regulation. Now this is also very important aspect, because let's say a person is sad in a happy situation and you also become sad, but you are adapting to the other person's emotions. However, you should also be able to you hold on to your own emotion state. So while it involves managing and controlling one's emotional reactions, particularly in social situations, while we are empathizing with others, it is very crucial to not become overwhelmed by their emotions or lose objectivity. Hi Sanjay, can you please mute? Okay. So we not to become overwhelmed by any other person's emotions. It shouldn't be the case that you lose your own emotional experience while you're empathizing with the other person. So it we want to maintain a balance between the feeling others emotions and keeping your own emotion in check. So what is the important, why is this important? It ensures that the empathy does not lead to emotional exhaustion or personal distress, because if you are always um, thinking about what other person is feeling, maybe they're not feeling well, you might also become depressed, or you might also lose your happiness, your personally state of mind that you had. So it can like hinder one's ability to provide support. Now emotional regulation helps to prevent excessive emotional involvement, right, and ensuring appropriate actions in response to others feeling. Let's say a doctor is there. Doctors deal with all kinds of patients in a day, and let's say one patient is suffering from serious illness and needs to regulate, so the doctor needs to regulate the emotional response. While they should be able to empathize with the patient, but they should be able to hold on to themselves as well. And um, they need to maintain the composure, right, to provide clear and professional guidance without any bias, or without getting any emotional overwhelming feeling. So these are the three major sub processes which are involved in empathy. So emotional simulation, perspective taking, and emotion regulation. So to summarize, emotional simulation, it tells us that you like it tells us what to feel. Like the other person is feeling sad, you might perceive them, and then you also start feeling similar emotion. Perspective taking means you want to know the reason behind why the person is behaving in a certain way, or what the person is experiencing, why are they experiencing that. Emotion regulation means to maintain a balance between their emotions, being empathetic, and your own emotional state, so that you are able to maintain the composure. Okay, so these are the three sub processes. Now physiological and behavioral cues can be applied to understand emotional state but not empathy. True or false? So physiological signals, what they include is, they can be skin conductance, they can be EEG signal, heart rate, HRV. So there can be many physiological cues, and behavioral cues are also facial expressions, body language. Uh, so body language, vocal intonations, these are the behavioral cues. And physiological cues can give us clues. We know we can guess the emotion, okay, but can we also detect empathy? Yeah, up to some extent, yes, we can. When when individuals experience empathy, because there might be physiological changes. I am experiencing happiness, then I suddenly look at a person, look at my friend, crying, and then I become sad. My physiological states will change accordingly. So let's say I've experienced fear, so my heart rate will increase. uh, Physiological signals can capture those changes, those activations, uh, such as mirror neuron systems and all. So the summary is that they can capture these changes that are happening due to being empathetic. So yeah, definitely we can capture it. um, if a person is interacting with someone who is upset, their increased heart rate and concerned facial expressions may indicate that they both are emotionally affected and empathetically engaged with other person's distress. So, this statement, which says that physiological and behavioral cues can be applied to understand emotional state, but not empathy. Empathy is again a kind of emotional state only, but it is just triggered by somebody else, right? So, we can capture this. So, the correct answer is false. Okay. Vocal cues and voice modalities of humans are reliable indicators of empathetic states. True or false? So, vocal cues for empathy means vocal cues means the characteristics that are present in your voice. Now, the tone of voice, pitch, speech patterns, they can help us to detect or spot the whether the person is empathetic or not. So, tone of voice, what can be inferred from that? Let's say the person is a calm, soft, or comforting tone, indicates, usually it indicates empathy. So if a person is sad, you don't shout at the person, you talk to them very calm, in a calm manner, in a very soft voice. So while an abrupt or harsh tone might show lack of emotional concern, if you're already if you're like shouting at someone who is already very in a very bad situation, very bad emotional situation, then it doesn't show the empathy. Usually it is the indication that if you use a very calm or soft voice, it is more of an indicator of empathy. Pitch and modulation, a higher pitch means like shouting or shrilling. Shrilled pitch means you're very using sharp voice, which is not the case. We usually tend to use more lower pitch, or uh, uh, so lower pitch is also there, but a higher pitch and a softer voice, like higher pitch can be there. Let's say female voice, it can be higher pitch, but main concern is the softer voice. So softer voice may indicate warmth and understanding during a conversation with someone who is upset, right? So if people are empathetic, they often adjust their vocal pitch and speed modulation to reflect care and concern. So speed, let's say you talk very fast, but somehow you want to talk very slowly, so that the person is able to comprehend what exactly is happening. And it usually includes pauses, slow speaking, and attentiveness. So you want to comfort them. People might mimic or adjust their speech to align with the person they are engaging with, okay, which is a part of emotional simulation in empathy. Okay, let's say an example would be a customer service representative. So there is a customer who is very very frustrated. So if the customer service representative, it deals with using a soothing tone, slow down their speech, and offer supportive phrases, then the changes in voice might indicate that the customer service agent, they are trying to be helpful, they're trying to be empathetic towards the customer's feeling, and then we can judge that the person is being nice. So yeah, these are some vocal cues for empathy. So is it reliable? Yes, because we can judge somehow that if the person is um, not shouting at you, not being harsh, then somehow we can say that the person is being patient, and it can indicate empathy. Okay, empathetic responses displayed by virtual and robotic agents are truly empathetic. True or false? So, are robots really empathetic? Um, Not exactly. They're not truly empathetic, because these agents, they do not have emotions or consciousness. They're just mechanical, right? Matlab, ultimately though it is all programmed. Ultimately it is very programmed, and while they can simulate the empathetic behavior and responses, they do not actually experience emotions or empathy in the way humans do. So instead, their responses are always based on algorithms, data analysis, and pre programmed patterns. Let's say you define a rule that if a person's voice is, it seems to be very frustrating, the customer seems to be very frustrating, then you want to use a softer tone to talk to them, to communicate, which is more of a rule based technique. In case of robots, they're not human, so they cannot experience the exact empathy. However, there are certain cues that we can pick up, and then they can respond in certain manner to um, try to be more empathetic. So the empathy is usually simulated, and they're programmed to recognize the emotional cues. As I mentioned, let's say I'm talking to Alexa, and I sound tired or I sound frustrated, then Alexa might be able to guess using my tone, or so it might guess that, okay, this today Akanksha is feeling very frustrated, so I should respond in a better manner. Um, and it should provide responses that are aligned with empathy. So these are, again, there are simulated responses and based on pattern recognition, because it recognized that I am uh, it recognized that I am more frustrated, and not genuine emotional understanding. It does not understand what I'm going through. And similarly, for behavioral algorithms, they also like rely on behavioral algorithms, like they are programmed in certain way. Let's say a chatbot might respond with comforting language when detecting the user is upset. So this is based on coded behavior, hard coded, or rule based approaches, but not an emotional reaction. So they're not truly empathetic, but they are simulated. Okay. Okay, what are the primary limitations of data driven approach in computational modeling of empathy? Lack of computational power, insufficient quantity and variety quality of data, ethical issues surrounding data collection, none. So in this case, the whenever you hear this word data driven somehow relates to that you give the machine a lot of data, you dump a lot of data, and then machine is able to capture some kind of patterns. Let's say every time they spot event A, event B is also happening, so the machine will understand that so many times out of 100 chances, if event A is there, 90 chances are there when event B is also occurring. So that means they are somehow related. This is called pattern mining, right? Pattern, you are extracting some kind of patterns from the data. So data driven approaches, they usually require lots and lots of data. um, the lack of computational power is not the major concern here, because you ultimately can go for higher computational powers, more computational powers. Then second option is insufficient quantity and variety quality of data. This is a very important aspect. The C option is ethical issues. Ethical issues are also there. We need to take care of what kind of data we are using. It should not be biased, it should not be uh, it should be balanced, gender ratio or different ethnicities, and even the privacy concerns, etc., etc. So many things that we need to take care of. But this is also more of a, like, secondary, not secondary actually, but out of these options, the best suited answer should be this insufficient quantity, because data driven are data hungry as well, so they are data hungry. data hungry, what does it mean? That they require as much data as you can provide. If the more the merrier. So you, if you want to work on empathy modeling, you want to feed the machine with lots of data. The quality and variety of data plays an important role. Let's say insufficient quantity of data, so the machine, the algorithm won't be able to learn such complex patterns, because especially in the case of emotions, which are exactly, nobody knows how happiness feels exactly. Like, you cannot tell me the objective definition of happiness, because everyone has their own perception about happiness. Emotions are way too complex to understand, and they are very context specific. So large amounts of high quality data is required usually. Demographic data, cultural background, so many factors are there which play important role, and they are required to train these models effectively and accurately. So often data sources are limited, leading to poor generalization across different use cases or user groups. Then lack of variety and diversity. Mostly, let's say a data set is there, but it is for the white people, but for people with dark skin there is no data for them. So the algorithm, the method that we are going to train, the model we are going to train, it is not going to work for any other ethnicity than the white people, because the data used is only based on white people. We do not know how well the model will be able to capture the similar like characteristics or patterns out of data which is from a different demographic or different cultural backgrounds. So lack of diverse data can cause the models to struggle with the generalization basically. Quality of data. Now emotional data, let's say vocal tone, facial expressions, can be very difficult to capture accurately. And if you are using some randomly labeled data, if it is incorrectly labeled, inaccurate, it is very noisy, or if it is biased, then it could lead to incorrect empathetic responses by the model. Moreover, labeled data reflecting complex emotional states are scarce and often subjective, further complicating the model training. Let's say a chatbot is designed to respond empathetically, and it might fail to recognize or generate appropriate responses for users from diverse backgrounds due to lack of culturally diverse training data. Let's say you're talking to a chatbot, and there is something, you need to contact police. Now what if it is not working for, if you ask the data, if you ask the bot that provide me the contact number of police officer, so it can tell you dial 911. But it is in the case of US. Now you cannot use the same system for India, because in India it is different, right? So but the model is trained on only the US data, so it only knows 911. But we require different data, we have different phone number, we have different uh, culture, we have different ethnicities. So in order to cover these aspects, we need a balanced and good quality, good amount of data as well. So yeah, this is the major limitation associated with the this empathetic models. Okay, now 10th question is, Kismet is an anthropomorphic robotic head specialized for face to face interactions with humans. So Kismet is actually this robot which has this ear like structures, eyes, even eyebrows you can see, then the lips. So this robot is designed, it was created at the MIT artificial intelligence labs. Okay. uh, it was specifically designed to engage in social and emotional interactions. What it does is it can capture different expressions. It can look at you, and then like see and sense whether you are happy or sad, and then it can also mimic those expressions. These are actually like working uh, actuators. So these actuators actually work, like it can produce a surprising expressions by raising the eyebrows and rounding of the mouth. So like it is able to mimic the human like expressions. So its facial structure is designed to resemble human expressions, you can see. So the question was related to anthropomorphism, which is making the robots look more like humans. And it can simulate the emotions as happiness, sadness, or surprise. So this helps to foster more natural and intuitive interactions with humans. Now, face to face interaction is Kismet is equipped with sensors, and whenever you are in front of the robot, it will look at you. The eyes are also mechanical, so it can also adjust the eye gaze. Even it can adjust the facial features. Okay, so it is more dynamic and responsive interaction. Now the purpose is to design to capture the social aspects of human robot interaction, particularly how humans perceive and respond to robots that exhibit human like emotional and social behavior. So this was the purpose. So moving on to the question again, it is an anthropomorphism. It exhibits anthropomorphism. And okay, next question is, which of the following statements are not true? Humans prefer to interact with machines in the same way that they interact with other people. Empathy is the capacity to understand what other humans are experiencing. Presence of empathetic responses by AI leads to better, more positive, and appropriate interactions. Appearance and functions of a product has no significant impact. So this is wrong. D is wrong because appearance makes a lot of impact. This is correct. This is correct. Presence of empathetic leads to more positive. This is also correct, and this is also correct. So answer is D. However, let's read this out once. We know that what is AI and empathy. We've already discussed that we require uh, this empathetic system so that it's more of a natural interaction. The human should not feel like it is actually talking to a mechanical box. Instead, it should produce some kind of emotional experience, so that let's say I'm talking to Alexa, it should seem like I'm talking to my friend, because Alexa is also very funny or emotional, or it is able to communicate in a more emotional way. So so D option is incorrect actually, and we want to tell which is the incorrect one. Okay, Shimi analyzes the human voice for arousal and performs semantic analysis of spoken language for emotion detection. Shimi is another robo that was designed. It is more of a, you can see it is like a dock for your phone, and it has these sensors which can capture your, it is more like a musical companion. So it's not a emotional robo like Kismet is more for interaction purposes, but Shimi, it is a smartphone enabled robotic music companion. So it is designed to enhance users musical experience. It was developed by uh, a team led by Professor Gil Weinberg, a director at Georgia Tech. So Shimi is controlled by an Android phone using its built-in sensing and music generation capabilities. So it allows easy development of additional custom apps anyways. So what it does is, let's say the first application that was developed, it allows Shimi to listen to and analyze rhythms played by humans and respond by choosing songs in same for beat. So basically, let me explain. If I'm tapping on the table like this, 1 2 3 4, so what Shimi can do is it can sense that I need to uh, find a song which is based on this beat pattern. So that, like, if I'm in a very sad, I'm feeling very sad, so I want slower songs. But if I'm like very happy, excited, I want to dance, so I will provide like something very upbeat. So it can sense the beat or the tempo of your rhythm that you're providing, and it can play the songs which are similar to that tempo. Also, if you can see here, there are two like feet here. It also taps on the table on the same beat. So it dances to the music using a set of expressive gestures that fit the desired tempo and genre. Now, it understands your emotion based on how to speak and respond with this kind of emotional response in both in gestures, right? It can rotate its this head and tap using here. It can play the song for you and choose the song for you. So, yeah, this is more of a musical companion. So, this is correct. Okay, very interesting again. The DASH task is a test that psychologists use to gauge development of the theory of mind: false knowledge, false belief, true knowledge. So, this is a task called false belief task. False belief task is a test which is used by the psychologist to assess the development of theory of mind in individuals, especially children. So, what they want to do is, this is a test that we will see what exactly the test is. These are experiments that mostly done with toddlers or children, and they want to test the theory of mind, like how your mind is developing. Okay, uh, so the one this particular test is like to assess if they understand that others might have false beliefs that do not align with actual reality. um, Whatever, let's say, whatever happened in front of you, you know the truth about something, okay, but there might be one person who does not know the truth. So it is very important that you acknowledge the fact that the person is unaware. So you should not impose your beliefs on any other person. So this is a test called the Sally Annie test. It is a psychological test and it is used in developmental psychology. Okay? To measure a person's social cognitive ability to attribute false beliefs to others. We will see with the help of an example and exactly what they mean. So there are two characters. One is Sally, and other is Annie. Now, um, Sally has a basket and Annie has a box. Sally puts her ball in the basket, right? And then Annie, she's watching. Sally goes away, and then Annie takes out the ball from this basket and puts in this box. Now, after that, this girl goes away, Annie goes away. Now, Sally comes to the room and she wants to check whether, like, where is the ball. Now, the children know, because you have shown that the children that the this Annie had already like took the ball out of the basket and put in the box, but Sally does not know about it, right? Sally was not present in the room. So, I'll just read it out for more clarity. Now we will see what exactly the test is about. Sally takes a marble or a ball and hides in her basket. Then she then leaves the room and goes for a walk. Now while she's away, Annie takes the marble out of Sally's basket and puts in her own box. Sally is then reintroduced, okay, and the child is asked the key question or the belief question: where will Sally look for her marble? Uh, so the answer should be that Sally, since she does not know that the other girl, Annie, she put the marble or the ball in her box. But so the child should be able to answer this. So when Sally returns, the child is asked where Sally will look for the marble. If the child has developed theory of mind, If the child has developed theory of mind, they will say Sally will look in the basket, because Sally holds a false belief. So Sally should look here where she dropped the ball. So she should look for there only, because Sally holds a false belief that the marble is still there. She's unaware of Annie's actions. So children who do not have, they do not understand these false beliefs, they're still not developed. They often say Sally will look into the box, because they assume everyone knows about what is happening, and they assume that everyone knows about what they know, means they haven't fully developed the theory of mind. So to summarize, if you know that the ball is in the other box now, so you shouldn't impose your thought process on others, like she should also know this. All because Sally was not present, she's unaware of what has happened behind her back. So she still has the belief that the ball is still there where she dropped it in the basket. But you have witnessed whatever happened, and Annie took the ball to the box. So if the child is asked where Sally will look for it, he should answer that Sally should look in the basket only, because she does not know it. So this is called the false belief test. Okay, humans prefer to interact with machines in the same way that they interact with other people. True or false? So this is true, because in human machine interaction or human computer interaction, uh, we tend to be more comfortable while we are interacting with something which is more of a human like. So this is, we've already discussed, so this is true. Then, tendency to provide human characteristics to non-lifelike artifacts is called polymorphism, anthropomorphism, skeuomorphism, neomorphism. So we also know this one, which is the anthropomorphism. I will skip this part, but yeah, this is an interesting concept. So if you want to see that this is the actual dragon, right, and this is a human, and if you want to design a cartoon character which looks like stands up straight like a human being, has two like arms, two legs, although it also has some other characteristics which are non-human like, that means but it still somehow resembles a human, not exactly though, but yeah, it still does look more human than this one, right? So we are moving towards the anthropomorphism. So children will more relate to this than this one, right? Similarly, a robot which is designed to look like humans, let's say, this might not be that comfortable, but this is more comfortable, right? Because it looks more familiar, while with one eye it looks very uncomfortable. So the correct answer is anthropomorphism. Yeah, this is also something we have already discussed. A human appearance or behavior can make an artificial figure seem more familiar for viewers, but only up to a point, which is called flat flowed valley, YPO valley, empathetic agents of uncanny valley. So we already know, like, see, another example is here. You can see it looks like a human, but if you look at this area, it looks very creepy and unnatural. So this is the uncanny valley effect. Okay, next is empathetic agents. Empathetic agents are agents that respond emotionally to situations that are more congruent with the user's or another agent's emotional situations. This one statement is correct. Agents that, by their design and behavior, lead users to respond in a way that is more congruent with the agent's emotional state. So, this is also true. Let's discuss how. So, first point is that agents should respond according to the other agent or other user's emotional state, which is the basis of empathetic agents, right? This means empathetic agents recognize and adapt their emotional responses based on the emotional context or how the other person is feeling. Let's say if a user is expressing sadness, then the empathetic agent might respond in a more comforting or supportive manner, which aligns with users emotional state. Second point is agents that by their design and behavior lead users to respond. Now the other way communication is also there. Then that it means that agents designed to evoke this empathetic reactions from users. A robot displaying a sad facial expression might cause a user to feel concerned or sympathy for it, prompting a response that aligns with the agent's perceived emotional state. So this is also correct. It's not just understanding the other person, but also like evoking and uh, capturing both. So both are correct. Okay. Which of the following robots had a very expressive mechanical face with anthropomorphic features? Shimi, we saw that Shimi is not anthropomorphic. Kismet, on the other hand, was anthropomorphic because it had two ears, two eyes, one lip region, even eyebrows. So Kismet is more, as we saw here, so it has more human like facial characteristics. Also, it has sensors which are also it will rotate its face when if you are going in that direction, if you are talking from that direction, it will rotate its neck. And also in this case you can see it's more of a happy expression and the eyebrows are raised. Okay, so um but the other hand, Shimi is not a human like robot, but it is more of a musical companion, right? It's more like a phone stand but with another speakers or something. So Kismet is an expressive as well as anthropomorphic robot. Okay. Next is user feedback ratings are the potential methodological metric for evaluating the affective agents. True or false? So, um, how do you make your systems better? We somehow, in any form, we require feedback. And if you are taking feedback from the user that the robot is not performing well or it does it does not perform this task well, then it can serve as potential like metric. We can let's say tell we program a robot to perform a task and then ask, let's say, five people to rate the the performance of the robot. Then it is very easy, it is very intuitive as well to understand how well the robot is performing. So it can be used as an evaluation metric. By collecting feedback from users about their interactions with the agents, developers can gain insights into the effectiveness of the agents in evoking emotional responses as well as their overall performance and user satisfaction. So, we want the feedback from users and it can help us to improve on the weak areas. So, these ratings can help us identify areas for improvement and guide further development efforts. Okay, this is also true. Again, repeat question. What is anthropomorphism primarily concerned with? Um, Creating machines with advanced features, developing robots with superhuman abilities, giving non human artifacts human like characteristics, exploring human behavior through AI research. The answer is giving non human artifacts human like characteristics. Next question is, what is the primary reason for attributing this? Like, what do why do we want anthropomorphism? uh, it is to demonstrate superiority over human capabilities? No. To simplify interactions and make them more comfortable for humans? Maybe yes. To challenge traditional notions of human computer interactions? Doesn't make sense. To showcase the advanced capabilities of modern technologies? Mhm. So the best answer is to simplify interactions and then make them more comfortable for humans. Okay, what are the two main aspects of anthropomorphism that impact human interaction with robots and agents? Appearance and intelligence, function and retention, appearance and function, interaction and capabilities. So, if you talk about anthropomorphism, which is looking like a human, right? It's mostly based on human like characteristics. So, it has definitely to do with the appearance. So this option or this option, now we see between intelligence and function, what do we want? um Ideally we want the function. The two main aspects are appearance. We already discussed this, that it refers to the physical characteristics of a robot. Like it should be, two eyes should be there, two ears should be there, and it can have a face, limbs, or other human feature. It should be like the dragon was standing on 2 feet, so more like a human. So it should have the face, limbs, etc., which look like human beings. Now the function, let's say behavior, that the robot, how it is performing, like it's a rotating its head. Okay, so let's say it is rotating its head but 360, it's not human like. So we want the function also to be more like human. So if human is able to do this up to this level, so the robot should also try to mimic that. The capabilities, behaviors, and the tasks, it should also be not supernatural, not superhuman like, it should be more human like. So functions and appearance are more important features. Intelligence is a more of a secondary thing, which is the, I mean, which are we are concerned with the intelligence on the later stages. But in the beginning we want to start with something which is more relatable, so that appearance and function are the more appropriate answers for this. Then what happens when there is a mismatch between the appearance and capabilities of a robot or agent? The robot becomes too complex to manufacture. Uh, Interaction becomes more interesting because there is uniqueness. The robot does not look realistic. The interaction becomes uncomfortable for users. Again, same thing. Anthropomorphism. It is to more make the users more comfortable, and it makes the conversation more naturalistic. um, so something is off, like when there is mismatch between the appearance and capabilities of a robot or agent, the interaction can become very uncomfortable. Okay, when there is a mismatch, sorry, when there's a mismatch between the appearance and capabilities, uh, it becomes very confusing, it becomes very uncomfortable to watch. Let's say a robot is having a very human like appearance, but it lacks the intelligence or capabilities expected of a human. Let's say it cannot rotate its head, then the users, or even if it is like not able to blink the eyes, but it is just looking straight into, straight, always, it is not even blinking the eyes, it is not even uh, changing the gaze direction, so it is just very static. It will look very very creepy, very very uncomfortable, because normally humans, they like we blink, right? And even, uh, as I mentioned in the beginning of this lecture, if we want to make something more human like, then the expectations of performing more human like functions increases. I don't expect anything from Kismet, or I don't expect anything from Shimi, but I expect from Sophia, which looks exactly like humans. So if it is doing something, let's say if Shimi is jumping and everything, doing rotating its head 360, I have no issues. But if Sophia is doing that, rotating the head 360 full circle, I will be very uncomfortable, because again, it is not meant to do these things. So the mismatch is there. So this mismatch can lead to more uncomfortable human robot interaction. So it becomes more uncomfortable. Then, what is identified as a key factor contributing to discomfort in interactions with robots in the uncanny valley? The absence of human like appearance? No, this is already there. The inability to perform tasks effectively? No. The mismatch between human expectations? True. The inability of robots to accurately mimic? No. This is just another component. So the correct answer is the mismatch. Okay. What are the three major sub processes involved in empathy? We've already discussed this. I think this is just repeated. So, emotional recognition, behavior analysis, and cognitive assessment, emotional simulation, perspective taking, and emotional regulation, cognitive simulation, perspective shifting, and emotional adaptation. No, emotional mirroring, behavior adjustment, and cognitive empathy. So, the correct answer we know is these three sub processes, which is again, which is emotional simulation. That means if a person is feeling sad, I will also start to feel sad, because somehow my mirror neurons are also trying to behave similar way. Then comes the perspective taking. If you look at a person who is crying during a festival, of your friend is sad during a festival where everyone is happy, you might want to know the reason why the person is feeling like that. So we want to look things from their perspective or from their viewpoint, and we want to understand. So this is more about understanding or imagining the thoughts from the other person's viewpoint. Then comes the emotional regulation. So again, I shouldn't be overwhelmed by others' emotions so that I forget to experience my own emotional state. So techniques such as self control, empathy based decision making, providing emotional support. Again, it involves managing one's own emotional responses in order to appropriately respond and support the emotions of others. If the other person is crying, you shouldn't start crying, but you should console them so that they stop crying. Okay. In context of the therapy session vocal recordings, what prosodic features may be associated with low empathy situations? Um, in case of low empathy and high empathy, so if you are if you want to comfort some, if you're going to comfort some person, so you want to be more on the politer side, right? You don't want to shout at the other person, even if you think that the person is not, they're being irrational, they're not thinking the right way, but you have to be more patient with the person. And in case of therapy, that means the person is suffering, has some kind of mental health issues. So it is very very important that we keep our tone, our pitch, more on the softer side. So, what prosthetic features may be associated with low empathy? We want to check medium length segments with low energy and low pitch. I think this is not non, like this is high empathy. What I mean to say is this is higher on the side. Medium length segments with high energy and high pitch. High energy is usually high energy is usually associated with like shouting or being loud, right? So this is undesirable. Then short segments with high energy and low pitch. Pitch is low here, So that means it's more on the softer side. Energy can be slightly higher, short segments can be there. Then long segments with low energy and high pitch. This is also low energy. Pitch can slightly vary, but I think it should be option B. So empathy and intonation is definitely related, because with high energy and high pitch, that means it is like more, it indicates more of a louder voice and having a raised intonation. So because of this, the therapist's response within that particular segment cannot be considered, or may not have been considered, as highly empathetic. Maybe it was, but out of all, relatively, this uh, correct, this B option, which is medium length segments with high energy and high pitch. So both should not be like on the higher side. Mostly you can see, if the voice is very shrill and moreover high energy, so that indicates more of a shouting at someone. Okay, what are the two main methodologies researchers use to generate empathetic behavior in virtual or robotic agents? Um, Sentiment analysis and emotional space modeling, computational modeling and data driven approaches, behaviorism and cognitive psychology, neurological simulation, and machine learning. So, the first point is computational modeling. Computational modeling involves creating mathematical and computational models that simulate human emotional processes and behavior. So basically, to estimate uh, whatever we are learning in ML or deep learning algorithms, they are ultimately an estimation or an approximation of any kind of labels, right? So any kind of information that we are feeding based on your application you're using it for, it is ultimately an approximation. So these models, they often incorporate rules, logic, decision making processes to determine how agents should respond in different emotional contexts. Okay, so one is basically computational modeling, means rule based. It is more like rule based. You are specifying some rules. Let's say, um, yeah, like example, if a user is expressing sadness, then the model could generate a response expressing sympathy or offering comfort based on predefined rules. Okay, also they can utilize techniques from AI, cognitive science, effective computing to simulate empathy. uh, then the other approach is data driven. In data driven approaches, we have just the labeled data, like okay, if this is happening, this happened, and this this was sadness. My, let's say, facial expressions or whatever, like there can be some set of features and some labels. So it helps us to not specify any rules in advance, but it helps to learn the rules implicitly. So we just need to feed them more data. So previous example can be a decision tree. Decision tree can help us if this is person is smiling, and if the tone is low, then it should be on the um, happier or calm side. If the person is smiling but it is very high energy, then the person will be excited, like that. The data driven approaches, however, they learn the patterns on their own. We don't need to provide. So we just use a data set of human conversations labeled with emotional states, and we want to train a model, ML model or DL model. So this is more of a ML DL based approaches. So it can be supervised reinforcement. Different kinds of learning paradigms are there, and agents learn to recognize emotion patterns and responses by processing vast amounts of annotated data. The main the star of the show is the data, and how good the data is. It will determine how good your model is going to be. Um they're often used in sentiment analysis, effective computing, pattern recognition, and etc. And second is the model learns to associate specific linguistic patterns or cues with different emotions and adjusts its responses accordingly. For instance, if a user expresses frustration, the model might generate a supportive or understanding the patterns on the basis of patterns that it has understood from the data itself. So main difference lies between the two approaches is one approach, the for the this computational modeling, it is more of a rule based, you're telling in advance, and data driven is more of a it learns automatically. So these are the two main approaches. So the next question is, which of the following is not mentioned as a cue for analyzing empathy and interactions? Is it the lexical cues, vocal cues, visual cues, or olfactory cues? So lexical means the text based cues, vocal means your voice, visual means your facial expressions, and olfactory it is related to the smell. So in lexical cues, let's say you're analyzing some text or transcript, so you come across happy, sad, excited, or angry, so still we are able to get some lexical cues about a person's emotional state. Vocal cues, they more focus on this tone, pitch, prosody, intonation, etc. And if these things are changing over time, then we can see the observe the changes and see which like state the person is feeling right now. Let's say a higher pitch and increased volume might indicate excitement or happiness, while a lower pitch and softer tone could suggest sadness or disappointment. Now, visual cues can be the facial expressions, body language, and gestures. A smile can indicate happiness or friendliness, and furrowed brows might signal concern or like frustration. Okay, olfactory cues, they don't play any role in this particular task because they are related to the sense of smell. So no empathy, no relation with empathy. So this is the olfactory cues. Okay, what does the term averted mutual gaze refer to in the context of analyzing gaze patterns? Both participants are looking at each other. One participant is looking at the other. Neither participant looking at the other. Averted gaze between participants. So gaze pattern is something which can provide us with cues, with like how regarding to the empathy. Let's say if I'm talking to one person and if I'm directly looking into your eyes or looking at the person's face, then the conversation is more engaging. First of all, the second point is that if like the person is feeling sad and you want to console them, so you cannot just look away and console them. You have to like look at the person, you have to make them feel that they are being listened to, they someone is listening to them, right? So if I'm talking to you but I'm looking away, it means that I'm very disinterested in the conversation. Okay, so what does averted mutual gaze mean? So there are multiple gaze patterns that we observe. So the first is mutual gaze. Mutual gaze means both the participants in a conversation, let's say in this context of affective computing, we can say the conversation is going on between a human and a robot. So human and robot can look at each other. If they're like having eye contact, if they're looking at each other and then the robot is responding, then that means the robot is more on the empathetic side because it knows how to respond properly, right? So let's say here I think this is mutual. Yeah, so you can see the person is looking at this person and this person is looking at the other one. Okay. Then there comes the second one, which is one way gaze. One way gaze means this person, single gaze. So this person, sorry, um, this person is looking at this first person, while this person is looking at somewhere around the screen or so, right? That means this is one way. One way means one participant is looking at the other, but the other one does not reciprocate, and it shows indifference or lack of engagement, possibly indicating disinterest or detachment from the interaction. So low empathy setting, right? Then mutually averted gaze, that means neither participant is looking at each other. You are not looking at the robot is not looking at you. So there may be signs of discomfort, hostility, disagreement expressed through facial cues, suggests a lack of empathy and even animosity between the participants. So, this is how we can use gaze patterns for determining the empathy. So, averted mutual gaze means neither participant is looking at each other. Now, what is the first step in applying a computational model to generate empathy in AI chatbot? Any kind of model that we are applying, be it computational model, which means more of a rule based. So we have a model, let's say we have a model which says if uh, eyes um, not okay, let me take another example. um, if not smiling, okay, if not smiling, then there can be two cases. Also check if uh, low pitch, if high pitch. And let me just take example with smiling face, it would be easier to understand. If the person is smiling, and if lower pitch or higher pitch, then lower pitch, that means it's more of a relaxed state, and if it is high pitch, then it means more of a excitement, excited state. Okay. um Now how can, but what is the first step? First step is it modulating empathy response? Second is expressing empathy through messages, understanding the user's emotional state, analyzing user demographic information. Now the first step is always to understand the user's emotional state, because see, you want to, empathy means you want to understand what other person is feeling, right? So for that you need to understand what exactly the other person is experiencing, only then you can respond in a certain way. Before the chatbot can express effectively empathy or modulate its empathetic responses, it should first understand the emotional state of the user. This can be achieved using users language, tone, sentiment, even physiological signals if available. And once you are able to understand the condition of the person, then you can modulate or frame your answers in such a way which are aligned with the more like they are more on the empathetic side. So yeah, the first step is understanding the emotional user's emotional state. Okay. What is the one proposed method for evaluating the effectiveness of affective agents? Likert scale analysis, Turing test, emotional intelligence assessment, facial expression recognition. So, affective agents, what can be used to detect how good the effective agent is? So, we can use the Turing test. It is a very popular test which tells if a machine is able to pass the Turing test, that means it is able to fool the system, fool the test, that this is a, you're talking to a human. So let's say you are given a even you're chatting with someone and you don't know if it is a bot or if it is an actual human being. So a bot's a bot might be using some kind of very you know limited vocabulary, or certain pattern will be there in the text. Let's say nowadays even chat gpt generated text can be detected, okay, this might be generated from chat gpt. But how to see if you're actually um talking to someone human, uh, or chatbot. So if you are unable to tell the difference between you're wrong and the agent is able to fool you, then that means it is a very very good effective agent. So we want to assess the agent's ability to exhibit intelligent behavior indistinguishable from the human beings. A human evaluator interacts with both a human and a machine through a text based communication, right, without knowing which is which. If the evaluator cannot reliably distinguish between the human and the machine based on the responses, then the machine is considered to have passed the test because it was able to fool. So if effective system is able to fool the evaluator, then it is a good uh, effective agent. Because the ultimate goal of the whole effective computing is to make human like interactions possible. And if it is able to fool you in like thinking that you're talking to a human being while it is actually a bot, the purpose is achieved. So Turing test is the one. Okay, what types of cues are monitored by the effective auto tutor to determine the appropriate response? Only facial expressions, conversational cues and body postures, voice data and conversational cues, only body postures and conversational cues. So what exactly is auto tutor? Let's dive into this. Auto tutor is an intelligent tutoring system, okay. It helps the students to compose explanations of difficult concepts in Newtonian physics. So the ultimate goal is to provide you an interface where you can actually ask some questions or talk to the tutor, which is a virtual avatar basically. It is more for like someone who is has social anxiety, let's say. Or also it tailor makes your it crafts your education or your study let's say syllabus or your process in such a way that it is very comfortable for you, because you can study at your own pace. You can you can respond, or you can like study at your own pace. It gives you that flexibility. So it constructs a cognitive model of students knowledge levels by analyzing the text of their typed or spoken responses to its questions. So it analyzes how good the person is answering. So if it is good enough, it will keep you in some good category, and then accordingly it will behave. So it dynamically tailors the interaction towards individual student zones or proximal development. Now it takes the individualized instructions and human like interactivity to a new level by automatically detecting and responding to students' emotional states in addition to the cognitive states. So basically, it is okay. Now we just talked about the auto tutor, but effective auto tutor actually takes care of the different conversational cues. You can talk to them, like you can answer in speech mode as well, text also. You can like type the answer. It can observe your face, your posture, conversational cues, and the answers that you provide, and then it independently provides its own diagnosis of the student's affective state. Now they can be combined with an algorithm which tells the single affective state, like the person is confident or um, maybe the confidence sorry, a confidence value can also be there. Like, I'm this confident that the person is feeling stressed. So this is something, this is a sample from snapshot from the auto tutor. There is a virtual avatar. There's a virtual avatar, and this is a system. So let's say you are providing the question, and then the tutor is also responding in that way. Then student is also typing the response. So you can type your response here, and this is the question: how does the operating system interact with the while document, etc. So, like, this is also a setting where this particular system is just processing the body language. There's a camera, and this captures the facial features, and these two cues are analyzed, and then according to that this response is tailor made. So it can take facial expressions, conversational cues, and body postures. Then, this is next question is: minimal variability in empathetic responses adds complexity to accurately perceiving empathetic behaviors in computational models. So, minimal variability, that means not much difference is there. Um, let's say if I tell you to mimic a happy state. So if everybody is just smiling, then there is not much difference in how everybody perceives the notion of happiness. However, let's say for me, happiness is not smiling but just calm, being calm. Uh, for other person, it can be laughing. For another third person, it will be just a small, like tiny smile on your face. So each of three people, we have different perspective about it. That means the variability is very very high. But if we have minimal variability in empathetic responses, does it add complexity to the system? um, which is not the case actually. If minimal variability is there na, so that reduces the range of possible reactions or expressions. The range becomes very narrow down. So only five possible outcomes for a given event, whereas maybe 25 possible outcomes for a given event. So high variability versus low variability. Low variability is 5 responses, high variability is 25 responses. So that means low variability is less complex to understand. So overall complexity is decreased because fewer possible outcomes are there to consider. The range of responses is very very broad usually, but systems are very complex. But in this case, if minimal variability is there, then the system is not that complex. Even the complexity is decreased. So the statement is false because it tells that minimal variability adds. No, it actually decreases. Right? Okay. What is a major challenge in integrating cognitive models of empathy into computational models? Lack of computational resources, lack of interest from researchers, inability to collect relevant data, limited consensus on cognitive models of empathy. So, as I just mentioned, let's say if there's one researcher, there are, let's say, three researchers, and researcher one tells the notion of this cognitive, any state, let's say happiness. Happiness is different for researcher 1, for researcher 2 it is different, for researcher 3 it is different. So it is not very well defined. In case of empathy, empathy can also vary in terms of definition. I might think empathy is something different, but researcher 2 might think it's slightly different. Researcher 3 might have a different opinion. So a group of researchers interested in developing this chatbot or virtual chatbots, and they want to introduce empathy. And each researcher comes from a different background and theoretical perspective. Every person in this world have their own perspective. So One researcher may emphasize that the importance of perspective taking abilities in empathy, focusing on how individuals understand the viewpoint of others. Another may prioritize emotion recognition, that emotion recognition should be it is very crucial. This thing might not be very crucial, but emotion recognition. And the third researcher might also advocate for something other principles which are from taken from the psychology. So to introduce the belief, desires, etc. To so there might be ambiguity and clashes between what do you want to introduce in your system, what you know in simple language. um, More people might have different opinions, and you don't have a standardized definition of empathy or emotions. So creating a rule based system, let's say if a person is smiling, then it might be happy. It might be happy, it is not always happy. So it is not that simple to create these rule based systems, which is the computational systems. So lack of consensus is actually the major concern here. uh, ठीक है, and it may struggle to reconcile conflicting theories or prioritize certain cognitive processes over others. So yeah, so the limitation is major challenges, limited consensus on cognitive models of empathy. Which of the following is not one of the elements invoked in involved in evoking empathetic response? Time of type of behavior, time synchronization, appearance, or context. So type of behavior is definitely important. That if let's say an AI responds to an user's distress with comforting words and some supportive gestures, it may evoke empathy. Conversely, if it is dismissive or indifferent, then it might not evoke empathy. So behavior is very important. Then comes time synchronization. It is not that related to the empathy. Appearance is definitely we want a robot with more facial features which mimic human expressions, and it appears more empathetic as compared to user like with a static or non-humanoid appearance. Then comes the context in which interaction is taking place. It can significantly impact the evocation of the empathetic responses. Let's say if a user is sharing a story of loss, uh, the AI's response should be very sensitive. Like the person, let's say the person shares a story about somebody who they have lost recently. So the AI response should not be insensitive. It should take care of what the person is actually telling them and then respond accordingly. So understanding the context is very very important to tailor the response appropriately. So the time synchronization component is the least it is not the element which is necessary. These are important factors. What is highlighted as one of the capabilities of Kismet robot? Its ability to perform complex calculations? No. Its ability to understand human emotions and respond empathetically, its skill in mimicking human speech patterns, its proficiency in physical tasks. So the definitely it is the empathetic robot, and it can sense what you're feeling and then respond accordingly, and it can observe different features like vocal tone, facial expressions, body posture, your location, etc., and then it can respond accordingly. So it can understand human emotions and respond empathetically. What type of data does the empathetic companion system analyze to gauge the user's emotional state? So, can we use heart rate and blood pressure, skin conductance, and electromyography? respiration rate and body temperature, and brain wave activity. So empathetic companion system is basically a an interface, and it is an animated interface agent that accompanies the user in the setting of a virtual job interview. Okay, so this interface, what it does is it takes physiological signals, skin conductance and electromyography of a user in the real time, interprets them as emotions, addresses the user's affective state in form of empathetic feedback. So it is conceived as an educational agent that supports job seekers which are preparing for an interview. Um, you can use this and determine how stressed you are. Like you can see here, this is the agent and this is the interface, and this can respond. This is Japanese, by the way, and I don't know, but anyways, so this is telling something like it is responding in a certain way which is uh, specific. And let's say this is a job interview scenario, and uh, you there are some pre-tailored responses. This is the interviewer, and this is the interviewer, and the virtual avatar is telling you, it seems you did not like this question so much, because if I am expressing it, let's say I have some, this can capture my facial expressions and I'm very surprised at what kind of question is this, then this might tell me, okay, I it seems that you did not like. Or even when I'm like very much stressed about it, then the avatar might be used to thoda ease out the tension. So this is more of a empathetic companion system. There are other examples, responses as well. Let's say ignore, the agent does not address, congratulates, encouragement, show empathy. So different responses can be there. Then empathetic companion system, what exactly it uses? Facial express, sorry, it does not use facial expression, it uses skin conductance and electromyography, which is the muscle activity measurement. So skin conductance and EMG. EMG measures muscle activity, which can provide, because when we are stressed, our muscles are also more on the they are more on the stressed side, so there is high tension in your muscles. But when you're relaxed, your muscles are also relaxed. So if we are able to analyze these physiological signals in real time, then the system can infer and tailor its responses accordingly. So skin conductance and electromyography. Okay, how does Shimi, the personal robot, communicate with humans? Through written messages, through music, gesture, and verbal responses, through facial expressions, through abstract symbols. We've seen Shimi is a musical robot, so it responds through music. Gestures means the tapping on the floor, on the table, and verbal means it can play some songs. Okay, I think the last question for this session is, which is not correct regarding the false belief test? The false belief test is used to assess an individual's theory of mind, particularly in adults. In the test, participants are presented with scenarios where someone holds a false belief about a situation. The test aims to determine whether the participant can understand that others may have beliefs that differ from their own. So, if you read this carefully, option number three is absolutely correct, because we want to assess whether you are able to digest the fact that the other person can have a different opinion which they are unaware about. Second point is also correct. Participants are presented with scenarios where someone holds a false belief. In the previous example, where Sally and Annie were there, so Sally held a false belief. The first point is, false belief test is used to assess individual's theory of mind, which is correct, particularly in adults. Here is where it becomes incorrect, because it's not meant for adults, it's usually done for toddlers and children. So first one is incorrect. I think C option might be the answer. It is often administered to children. The aim is to this ability to recognize and understand false beliefs is considered an important milestone in the development of theory of mind. It demonstrates an understanding of the subjective nature of beliefs. Like, not everybody will agree with you, and the ability to attribute mental states to others. So, one only. This is the false statement. And thanks for attending the session. Thanks for watching the video for those who will be watching it later. uh, Next session will be on 1st of April 2025, and the this was the ninth live session. Now we have more, I think 10, 11, and 12. Three sessions more left, and I hope you're enjoying the sessions. And if you have any doubts, you can also write in the comments. Um, so, thanks again, and have a nice day.